what's going on? Today we're doing Osquery from TryHackMe. The room is considered, or it is part of the cyber defense pathway, and it is a blue team room for those who are willing to learn incident response, threat hunting, and security analysis. So basically, Osquery is developed by Facebook, and you can visit the official website here to find out more information about Osquery and what it is. So basically, Osquery is a query, a framework. All right, you can install Osquery on Windows, Linux, or Mac. And when you install Osquery on an endpoint, you will be able to query for indicators of compromise. You will be able to query for threats and enumerate the machine to find out what happened or more information about the incident you're investigating. So basically, it is a blue team tool or framework. All you have to do is you install the tool on or the framework on your endpoints. If you have Windows, you install it on Windows endpoints. If you have Linux, you install it on Linux endpoints. And later in the video, we will be able to control these endpoints from one central place. Technically, it is GUI interface. So basically, if you have only one endpoint or two endpoints, you don't need to install the central server to interact with the endpoints. You can install it on two endpoints and then interact with the endpoints from the command line. Osquery uses SQL. So if you don't know SQL, it's going to be harsh to learn this tool. But if you know SQL or SQL, you'll be able to interact with any endpoint easily and smoothly. So SQL or SQL is a prerequisite to Osquery. So as I said earlier, Osquery is a framework to interact with endpoints to find out more about the incidents or to hunt threats. You may be asking me what is the difference between Osquery and Sysmonitor or Syslog, Splunk. Actually, the difference between Osquery and Sysmon is, tool to monitor your system for file changes, for registry changes. Osquery is integrated with Sysmon. You can integrate both together. So Osquery will help you find out about the changes or the incidents that Sysmon detected using SQL. So Osquery is not kind of anti-malware. It is not kind of security service. It is a framework that helps you query for events. So, and it is very required by companies who work in threat hunting. So it is a very valuable skill to learn how to work on Osquery. So enough of introduction. In this room here, we're going to answer the questions, and I'm going to try to cover all of the ways that have been taken to answer the questions. So the first thing, make sure to deploy the machine and access the machine using your preferred RDB tool. And then let me give you an introduction about the tool or framework, and from that point on, we will be able to answer the question. So basically, let me close these. The machine connection is a bit lagging, so excuse that if you find some lagging while I do the commands. So here, as you can see, we have the machine considered as one of your endpoints, and we open the command prompt, properties, font 36, that's good. All right, so in order to start Osquery, or considering that you have installed Osquery, the next step is to launch Osquery. Now, consider that we are querying the endpoint, all right, after we have installed Osquery. So this is one endpoint investigation, all right? So you can type Osquery to start the Osquery. Okay, so what do we do here? So technically, you can type .help. Make sure to type dot, of course, to get details about the commands available. As you can see here, we have summary, show, types, tables. What are all of these? So Osquery works by querying tables. So if you type tables, you will get all of the tables that Osquery can interact with in your system. For example, Osquery can, give you information about the programs on the system by querying the table called programs. For example, let's type .table program. So this will give you that table program is actually on the system, right? But if you want to get information about the programs running or installed programs on the system by using Osquery, all you have to do is to just use the SQL syntax. For example, select star from, and the table is programs. As you can see, I have the output, of course. We need to use the filtering within the SQL syntax in order to make the output tidy and neat. So technically, that's how it works. It's very easy. Just understand what are the tables, and then if you know SQL, we'll be able to query these tables without any hassle. Okay, let's get back. All right, so basically here, the first question is, what is the Osquery version? So if you get back and type .help, we see here one command is show the current values for various settings. So if we type .show, we see information about the environment, one of which is the Osquery version and this SQLite version. So you answer with that for the first question and the second question. What is the default output mode? So if we again type, or if we return back to the help menu, we see there's a command called .mode and the mode that you would like to select for your output. So if you go over the modes, you see that pretty is the default output mode. So this is the answer. Now, what is the meta command to set the output to show one value per line? So basically, meta command is the command that you prefix with dot. So when you say dot mode, it is called meta command. So what is the command or meta command to show the output one line or one per line, which is here, one value per line. So in order to set that, we can type the following dot mode and line. But I'm going to return back to pretty. What are the two meta commands to exit Osquery? So if you get back to the help menu, you will see that you have two meta commands to exit the Osquery. The first one is quit, and the second one is exit. So far, we are learning the basics of how to interact with the tool, how to get the help menu, how understand how it works. Now, schema documentation. Okay, so technically, you can go to the schema documentation on this URL and see here what are the tables, and you filter by the version, you filter by the system. For example, you don't need to know all of the tables, or if you're wondering what specific table, what querying a specific table would return in the output. For example, here the installed version is 460. So I click on 460 and I select here Windows to tell the page that I would like to get information about the tables available in Windows. On the left, I see the tables, and here I see the number of tables. These are the tables that you can query in Windows with Osquery. If you click on one table, for example, Windows crashes. Here, Windows crashes. Description is extracted information from Windows crash logs. So with SQL syntax, you can query this table, all right, to get more information about the reasons a crash happened in the system, why it has happened in the first place. And you can see here are the columns, if you want to use the filtering in your command. For example, let's go to services. So if you want to query the services installed on Windows, but if you want to filter for specific services like Windows Defender, as you will see later. So what we can do here, we can get back and see here, select from services, and much like in any SQL command, you would use the where switch to filter. So where So I get back and I see what is the criteria that I would like to use for the filtering. So here the description. So if I take this or the name, if you want to filter for a specific service, we would either use the name or the description, but be sure to know how to use the like statement in SQL. The like statement is used for pattern matching. So if you want to match for specific patterns or specific characters, you will need to use the like switch. So let me get back and see what can I find about the Windows Defender service. So basically here where, and I would use the name and use like. So if I go to the command line here, task manager, if I want to get an idea about what would the Windows Defender name service start with, I'll go to the services and go down. So here we have Windows Defender Antivirus Service. And here I have another one, which is Windows Defender Antivirus Network. So most definitely I will need to query this service. So as you can see, the name is WinDefend, but not all the time you will be able to view this interface. So if you remember one or two characters, you would use the like statement. And here you would start with win, d, and query. So as you can see, the output is displaying the information about the service that starts with WinD, which is Windows or WinDefend. Here you can see more information about the service. If you would like to filter more, you can also select specific columns to display in the result. That's how you can work with the documentation. So what table would you query to get the version of the Osquery installed on Windows endpoint? So we filter for Windows, and we look for a table that would display the Osquery info. So by clicking on Osquery info here, we see top level information about the running version of Osquery. If we take that and say select from, by querying this table, we were able to get information about the Osquery installed on the machine. So here we see the version. So this is the table name. How many tables are there for this version of, Osquery? Expired machine. Yeah, the machine has been turned off. Let me restart the machine. Okay, it is on. All right, so let's get back. Documentation. So how many tables are there for this version of Osquery? So get back to the documentation. We see here that this version of Osquery is 460 and the tables are 96. 266. I guess I selected the wrong version, so it's 470. And we select all the platforms. 460. So for 460, you have 266 tables. Be sure to remove all the filters here, because once you select a filter, it will restrict the number of tables being displayed here, and thus it will not show the correct number or the total number of the tables. How many of the tables for this version are compatible with Windows? So we filter for Windows now, and we see it is 96. How many tables are compatible with Linux? So we get back to the filter, and we unselect Windows, select Linux 155. What is the first table listed that is compatible with both Windows and Linux? So for double compatibility, we select Linux and Windows. The first table name is our cache, which is address resolution cache, both static and dynamic. Okay, that's for the documentation. creating queries. Now we go to the queries. So the question here is kind of assuming that you know how to use the Osquery SQL syntax and you are familiar with the tables. So after having done that, you will be able to answer this question. So the question is, what is the query to show the username field from the users table, where the username is 3 characters long and ends with en. So we are required to query the username. Let's take this down. So we are required to query the users table. If we get back to documentation and we select Windows, let's go for users, see what is the objective of this table. Click on users. So users, local user accounts, including domain accounts that have logged on locally. So this table, if you query this table, you'll get information about the users on the system that are logged in. So what is the query to show the username field from the users table? So we will query the users table. And username field is here, where the username is 3 characters or more and ends with en. So to be honest, this is the command that got accepted as a right answer, but actually I don't think it is the right command. Let me tell you why. So if you get back here and type select from users where username, first criteria is the username is 3 characters or more. So we have to find the length of the username field. And by finding the length of the username field, we will be able to get a number. The number can be compared against 3. So in SQL, that can be found by where username or length username equal 3. So it is greater than or equal to 3. If we stop here and enter, we see we get a list of all of the users, okay, where the length of the username is more than 3. But the second criteria is, if we have to add a second criteria, we would use the and the second criteria is ends with en. So we would like to use, or we have to use the like statement, and username like, so here it ends with, it doesn't start with, it ends with en. So we would use first the percentage or double quotes, then en, and close the single quote. Enter, nothing appeared, but if we restrict or if we removed the first one, where, okay, so where username like en, let me see here. Okay, so there is underscore here. No output. Let me get back, select username from users where username like en. So we don't have a username that ends with en. If I change the criteria to back to more than 3, and selected the username only from the table. So here are the list of usernames that are, or the character, or the, where the username is more than 3 characters. Okay. Now if you add a second condition where one of them, or yeah, one of them should end with en, as you can see from the output, there is none ends with en, which is kind of weird how this question was formed in the first place. But when I tried this, it worked. But actually, I don't believe it. If you try it with this command, it's not going to work. If you replace this, it's not going to work, because as you can see from the users, there is no single username that has en at the end. But anyway, you understand, or you got what I mean. Okay. using call it fleet. So call it fleet is a graphical user interface where you will be able to query multiple endpoints from one place. So assuming that you are querying one endpoint, you can get away with this way of querying the tables with Osquery. But suppose that you have multiple endpoints, like if you have I don't know, like 10 clients, 20 clients, 30 endpoints, you cannot just go about querying every single one from the command line individually. You have to install one central place from which you will be able to query all of the endpoints all at once. So for that, in this scenario, there is a Linux command line here installed. So we'll use that. Let's go to properties and make the font 56. So here, it is given by the scenario that you need to use the attached Linux subsystem, all right, to install the call it fleet. So basically, the first thing we would apply this command to start the Redis server. Password is TryHackMe. Then we start the MySQL. As you can see, the machine started to lag. Then the third command is configuring the server. So I will copy all of that. The server is running on the Linux machine, all right? So you perform or you execute these commands on the machine from which you would like to query all of the other endpoints. In this case, we are using the attached Ubuntu TLS machine to install the call it fleet server. From that place, we will be able to query the Windows machine and another endpoints that you might have in your scenario. And lastly, okay, so the server has started. Now we go back. We will be able to access that server from any machine on the same network. Of course, you would configure these addresses, these information based on your environments. This is the address of MySQL. In this case, it is localhost. But if in your case, in a real scenario, this IP will be the IP of the machine that is considered or treated as the central machine from which you will be querying your endpoints. Okay, accept the warning. Okay, so this is the graphical user interface. And from here, you will be adding the hosts that you will be scanning. On the left, you see the menu. Here, you create a query. So much like you create the queries on the command line, you create them here in the graphical user interface. There is no difference. You still need to know SQL. Okay. Now let's go over adding the hosts. So let's click on that and click on show here. This will show us the secret key or the secret token. We copy that and we go back, replace this here. Now this command is used on the endpoint that you are querying. In my case, we are querying the Windows endpoint. So here, let me execute that. Oop, okay. So now we need to cd to the path where the tool exists. cd, and then we launch this. I hope it will work because it worked. Okay, fine, this is good. So now if you go back to your browser and refresh, you will see the machine has been added to your machine lists. In an ideal scenario, or in a scenario where you are investigating multiple endpoints and you are using the graphical user interface on a central machine, you will see here multiple endpoints, not only one. So incoming hosts, but the host hasn't come yet. Failed, we see failed here. Connected client died. Okay, let's re-execute this one more time. Refresh. Unfortunately, it is not showing up. Yeah, it says that we have connection issues. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to refresh, or yet better, I'm going to close that, reopen. Okay. Oh, we still have one incoming host. Let me log out. Okay. Copying username and password. Still not logged out. Yeah, the machine performance is painful. You'll have to wait, you'll have to... Actually, it took me around 4 hours to finish this room. Half of this time wasted on trying to reopen the machine, trying to reopen the cloud fleet more than 5-6 times. So if this happens again, I'm gonna skip this and show you how I answered the questions. Most importantly, you don't see the most importantly, you see how the questions are answered and you learn how to use the tool more than you seeing how the things are done in detail. Okay, fine. So here, the THM or Osquery, password, login. Okay, let me skip this part. So I'm gonna skip this part for now. Maybe we get back to it when it is working stable. So Osquery extensions. So here it is about Osquery extensions. How I got the answer 23. You have to just go to, it's about using the extensions, right? To answer this question, you have to go to the page of the extension itself. Osquery extension, I guess. README. And here you will find, and nope, not this one. So it's asking how many features that the extension or the polylog yx extension added to the OS query. We have 23 extension. And by the way, this extension is very useful if you want to expand the functionality of your threat hunting to OS query. It gives you more table to query, especially if you have RIARA rules implemented or RIARA signature files. It will give you greater visibility on what has happened or what are the attributes or properties of the threats or the malware that attacked your machine. Okay, so it's 23. Now go to Linux and OS query. So let's see now how we can use the knowledge we have gained so far in an actual scenario. Now if you're back, and right now we have not logged in. All right, fine. So now let's go to the OS Linux instance, terminate the current job, clear, and run OS query I. So here we are required to investigate the Linux machine, all right? Now these questions form the objective of the investigation and what we are trying to find. First thing, it's asking what is the current value of the kernel OS release. So here you are querying the Linux machine and finding what is the version of the kernel by using OS query. So the syntax for that, how to find this, let's go to OS Schema and select or see what is the table that we need to query to find out the version. Linux, let's see here. Kernel info, basic active kernel information. Let's query this table. Select from kernel info. See, the version is 440.1763 Microsoft, and this is the answer for the first question. What is the UID for the Bravo user? So now we need to interact with a table that has the information about the users. Let's go back to the documentation and see if we have a table like users table. So we have users table. If you query this table, we will be able to get information about the users. So here, users, okay, but let's use filtering in here. So instead of star, I would select username from users and UID, okay, where username equal to Bravo as given in the scenario. The UID is 1002. Okay, one of the users performed a binary padding attack. What was the target file in the attack? Binary padding attack is an attack where the malware or the malware changes one of the files on the system or adds junk data to its own signature or its own files to avoid and circumvent the security protections on the system. So that's in a nutshell what is a binary padding attack. Now, here, based on that knowledge, we're required to find out what was the target file in the attack, what file has been modified. So if we go back to the OS schema, we need to find the right table to query here. It's because OS query is all about querying the tables. So we need to find a table that has a context about this. So we need to find something like history or the commands that has been performed on the shell. So one of the tables here is, let's see here, shell history. Shell history, a line delimited table for per user history data. So if we try to query this table to get more context about what happened in the shell, what we would use here with select this one, select star from shell history. Okay, so let's see here. As you can see, these are the commands performed. Exit pwd ls cp, copying the file nodes, taking hash of the nodes, moving nodes to another file called nodesys, and then taking backup of that, md5 nodesys, exit, sudo. These are my commands. So as you can see, the file that has been manipulated is nodesys. And this marks the answer for this question. What is the hash value of this file? So, back to the question. Nodesys is in home TryHackMe. If we now open a new terminal here and go to ls, seems like I have over-clicked on the icon. Okay, ls. So, this is the file. If I type md5 sum nodesys, this is the md5 checksum of the file. Check all the file hashes in the home directory for each user. One file will not show any hashes. What is that file? So how do we find out about this? Let me go back. Here we have to perform the right query for this. Now we have to perform path, okay, or hash table. If there is a hash table that we can query, we can see what are the files that have hashes. If we go to our schema here and see what are the tables that would contain this information. So hash, file system hash data. Let's query this table, right? And find out what are the files that do not have hash. So select. Now let's select md5 and we select also. Okay, let's take a look at the columns first. The columns are path, the path of the file, directory, and md5. So let's filter for the home directory by using the path equal to home directory and use md5 directory to show this information on the command line. So md5 directory from hash where path equal, it is in home TryHackMe. So home TryHackMe. All right, let's see. Nothing. Select md5 directory from hash where path. Okay, let's select star. See if this would work. Okay. Let's say select star from hash. We can't do this. What's the reason for this? Table hash was queried without a required column in the where clause. So what is the required column here? Must provide a path or directory. Must provide a path or directory. So these are the required columns. All right. So select star from hash where path. Let's go back to the old one. Okay. And directory equal home TryHackMe. Cannot read file that exceeds the limits. How? Cannot read file that exceeds size limit, fleet size. Which seems to me this is the right answer for the question. Now, there is a file that is categorized as malicious in one of the home categories, directories. Query the Yara table to find this file. Use the signature file, which is saved in our Osquery Yara scanner Yara. So now here we learn how to integrate Yara with Osquery. So if you have Yara signature files to monitor for changes on your system, you can use the signature files along with Osquery to find out more context. So let me grab the page that contains the documentation for this Yara thing. I'm not sure where I left the page. Let's see here. Ah, okay, yeah. So by reading this documentation, you can answer the questions, but let's get a quick look at that. So on-demand Yara scanning. The table that's used for that is the Yara table, okay? And the syntax is here. So you can query the Yara tables, all right, or the Yara table to find out more context about your what you're looking for. The thing is, we have to use signature group or signature file. So it could be signature group or it could be signature file. In this case, the signature file is your Yara signature file. And here is the pattern or the path of the file that you will be assigning. So basically, if we get back here, the question is, there is a file that is categorized as malicious in one of the home directories. Query the Yara table to find this file. Use a signature file which is saved in Osquery. So let's take this one and build the corresponding Osquery for this. So select. Okay, so here let me leave this. What I would like to select at the end from Yara, where let's add signature file equal. So that's the signature file. And now we have to define the path. The path is one of the home directories. So here we, no, come on, no. Okay. So here we're signature file, and here we're path, define the path equal, let's try first with slash home Charlie. It is one of the home directories, by the way. And here select star. Syntax error. Yep. So we got nothing. Let's try home, TryHackMe. The last one was alpha. And weird enough, I didn't get any result. But if you query the Yara table itself, or the signature file itself, Yara var os query slash Yara slash scanner, the location of the signature file in Osquery, and then home Charlie. You see the file name is notes, but weird enough, the file has not shown up here. Hasn't showed up. So if I try here Charlie and notes, what's gonna happen? You see I can get now the details, but here it's asking about the name of the file, and in order to get the name of the file, you have to put the name of the file in the query. So it's kind of contradictory, right? But that's how it works. And here we get the details about the file that triggered the Yara signature. And of course, the matches are here from the Yara signature file. You will use them to answer the second question. Scan the file from question 3 with the same YARA file. What is the entry for strings? From question 3, we have the file called nosos. So we scan it by querying the YARA table to find out the strings. So all you have to do here is to change the path. So here, type TryHackMe nosos. So you see, get the strings here. Okay, go to now Windows and Osquery. So we're done with Linux or investigating Linux. Let's investigate now Windows. I prefer you run PowerShell. So in order to load the extension required in this task properly, run it as administrator and load or run this query in order to load the extension required to perform this task. The extension is at the where is it? So it is polylog AYX, which we talked earlier that this extension is actually it expands the functionality of your OS query by providing more tables to query. So let's put that here. Yeah, after darkness. Enter. Okay, let's wait for done start driver and we hit enter. Okay, back to the first question now. What is the description for the Windows Defender service? Okay, so it's asking now to get information about the Windows Defender, specifically its description. So we have to query the write table. Write table for querying Windows Defender or querying information about the services is the services table in Windows. So the right query for this would be select, and I would like to query the name and description of the service. I would type name, description from services, where, name, and we performed this query actually earlier in the video. Name like, so the name should start with win d, and this is the description. Next, there is another security agent on the Windows endpoint. What is the name of the agent? The agent actually is a program, and to query the programs, we can perform the following query. So here, let's select everything, or let's select, let's go to the programs table. Windows, Linux, Windows, yeah. Programs, look for programs, name. So let's select the name. So name from programs. Yeah, that's it only. So now remove this part. Let's go over the names. So all of the other names are normal programs except Chrome and Alien Vault Agent, which is the other security agent installed on the machine. What is required with one event log data? Now we get to the tables that are loaded with the extension we talked about. So this is the extension documentation. And here we see the tables. The tables are when process events, registry, etc. Now, if I go scroll down, I see examples of using these tables to get more context about the incident or about the threat. But the question here is about what is required with when event log data. Let's locate this table first. When event log data. So when event log data is here. Now if I go to table schema, click on when event log data. This is the schema for the table, and you see here multiple stuff that it displays once you query the table. One of them is the source. The source is the required input for the table to work correctly, or for your querying of the table to work correctly. Why? Because if you now go to select from, try to query the table without providing the source, it's going to give you an error saying that you cannot query the table without providing the source. So, as you can see, provide source as input in query. So the answer for this is the source. How many sources are returned for one event log channel? So, but technically, to query the event log table, you have to provide the source. The source is the source in the event log, the provider name, okay, such as the security, applications, system, the provider in the event log. You provide the source by querying the sources from one event log channels. Let's query the sources from one event log channels by displaying the sources. Select star from. Too many, right? These are the sources or the providers in Windows event log. So when you query the one event log data, you provide one of these sources in your query in order to use it. So how many sources are returned? So instead of displaying these, or instead of counting them, we have to find the number. So we type select count, use the count from WinLog channels 171076. Okay, next one. What is the schema for when event log data? You find the schema here by just going to tables schema and go to when file events, when event log data. Okay, this is a schema. Next one. The previous file scanned on the Linux endpoint, which was Notes or Notes, one of them, with Yara, is on the Windows endpoint. What date time was this file first detected? Answer format is, so you have to find out what is the date and time that was logged or registered or recorded when the malware was detected on the endpoint, which is very useful if you are doing forensic investigation. You're required to find out the time for everything. So now we have to query the time. This is the correct answer, but how to find it? So we have to query the when event log data, which is the event, which is the Windows events or Windows logs. But how do we get to the date and time? So technically, we know that the source or the Windows machine only has Windows Defender. When a file is detected as malicious by Windows Defender, it is logged in Windows Defender logs. So to find that, we have to query the Windows event logs and filtering for the, or providing the source as Windows Defender and filtering for the event. Okay, so if we go to this page, and as you can see, review event logs and error codes to troubleshoot issues with Microsoft Windows Defender. If you filter for detected, you see here the first event is 1006, malware protection, malware detected. Second one is 1015, malware protection behavior detected. The last one is 116 or 1116, which is malware protection state malware detected. The one that worked for me is 1116. Let's see how we can use the event ID and the given information to build the query. First thing is select. Now I'm not going to put star, we're going to select date and time and the event ID. Event ID, date, time, from, when, event log data, where, let's provide the source, source is. So Microsoft Windows and then dash Windows Defender / operational. How do I know this? Let's go back and see here the path to the Windows event logs. So as you can see here, no, okay. So to view a Microsoft Defender antivirus events, expand applications and services logs, start with Microsoft Windows Defender / operational. And the second criterion is event ID equal 1116. Will this work? Didn't work. Let's try event ID like 1116. Did not work. This also did not work. Let me review the event ID first. 1116. Select event ID, date time from when event log data were source, open Microsoft Windows Defender / operational. Okay, and event ID. Okay, let's see here if we cancel this. Well, this one, okay. Okay, let me remove the event ID filter and see if this would return any results. None. When event log data were source in Microsoft Windows Defender operational. I see nothing wrong with the query, but why it is not returning any results? Event ID. Okay. Let me exit, reload this. Let's copy that. Sometimes you have to reload the extension because the when event log data is a table that is dependent on the extension working properly. So if the extension doesn't work properly, then the table will not return any results. Again, so we don't have data. Let me make sure that this is correct by going to Events Viewer. Maybe the logs are cleared, I don't know. And let's go to, we have to filter now, we have to wait for this to be populated. All right, see the next question. Okay, what is the query to find the first Sysmon event? To find the first Sysmon event, select only the event ID, order by date time, and limit the output to only 1. Okay, we're gonna be back to this. So go to Microsoft, Windows, Defender. Where are you? Expand to operational, and we have 91 events. Okay, let me see my notes here. Okay, if we start with applications and services, let's go back to the Microsoft web page. Get this one. dash. Let's try to answer this one. Still no luck. If we remove the filter here, let me filter for the event from here. Filter event, filter current log, 1116. So we have two, but they are not showing up in the Osquery results. Okay, let me go on to the next question. I don't know how it appeared for me in the first try. Okay, what is the query to find the first Sysmon event? Select only the event ID, order by date, and limit the output to only one try. So the same logic, all right, goes here. Select event ID from the table is when event log data, where source equal. The source for Sysmon events is in, let me show you where. The same for with Windows Defender, but instead of Windows Defender, you will select Sysmon, Sysmonitor, / operational. So I prepared the query here. I'm going to copy that. Copy from starting from, let me see where I am here. Source equal. Source equal Microsoft Windows, Sysmon, operational. Order by, so we order the results by date and time, and we limit them to one result only. Enter. When you answer with this query, you will get the correct answer. What is this Sysmon event ID? So once you enter this query, you will get that the first event ID for Sysmon was 16. And you answer with this one, 16. So that was for this room. I hope the explanation and the walkthrough was helpful, and see you in the next video.